Hi, I'm Violet, and this is Now and Then Stories. Each week I share the stories I write, tales of love, chance, and the quiet turns of life that sometimes change everything. This week's story is called The Quiet Ward. They have given me paper and a dull pencil and said it may keep a person calm. That is not why I write. I write to measure the edges of this place. I write because the map on paper is still a kind of door, even when the room has only one that locks from the outside. I'm 30 years old. I kept the books at the dry goods counter for 8 years without losing a sum. That is the part they will forget in their notes. They will say nervous exhaustion, rest cure indicated, resident compliant. They will not write down the hour a man placed his hand over mine on the ledger and said, "You've done enough thinking for today," and how I took my hand back. They will call what came next a collapse. I call it a refusal. The building pretends to be new from the road. Up close, its age shows in the lengthening of corridors, how each coat of paint leaves a layer of time behind it. Floors of pebbled linoleum grip shoes. Doors are painted a white that means to imply purity and achieves only control. The windows are high, too narrow for hands. Light arrives in measured strips. Air arrives when permitted. No one in here says asylum. We are residents in a hospital. The word helps them more than it helps us. The morning cart comes with one squeaking wheel, a sound I could silence with a drop of oil if given the chance. Midday brings the yard, brick on 4 sides, iron above, a rug of grass in the middle nobody sits on. Evenings are the radiator counting, the corridor lamp throwing its pale stripe across the ward door. Nights host the laughter of a woman who dreams she's alone in a field. Her joy arrives like a trespass. The laughter keeps poor time and better truth. The nurse, there are several but one set of hands, wakes us with a voice smoothed on purpose. She says my name as if testing it for cracks. She lists the order of the day as if reading instructions to a stubborn hinge. Washing, breakfast, airing, doctor. My hairpins and belt and shoe hooks are kept elsewhere for my safety. Safety is their favorite word. Doors and prescriptions wear it like perfume. I take what they offer with a posture they understand. I eat, I walk, I wash when told. I keep my questions in single file. This is not compliance, it's translation. They do not speak my language. I have decided to learn theirs. The doctor arrives after airing. He wears a mustache. He means to be stern. He keeps his hands in his pockets until there is something to write, then produces a pencil as if drawing me into existence. He asks how I am and waits as if cataloging a species. I'm tired of being told I'm tired, I say in his language. Rest helps, I add, because his pencil likes it. He glances at the page. You are under strain, he says. You worked beyond your nature. The mind requires tenderness that the world often withholds. Here we will restore you. By taking my name and replacing it with resident, I ask, gently because sharpness only teaches them to tighten a cap bottle. He smiles without opening anything important in his face. You are safe here. He always says safe the way a man might close a lid. What brought me here? There was a paper to sign, they tell me. Someone who is not me signed it. A husband can sign, an employer can sign if a husband did not. A brother if no husband and no employer remained. Someone signed. The signature is a kind of theft. On paper, I ceased to be a woman at work and became a woman at risk. I am aware that a woman will be left here if she performs exactly the kind of anger that put her here. So I wear seriousness as one wears a good coat. I fold blankets into exact squares. I return my cup empty. I go to airing and keep the pace the nurse sets. I ask for my dress only on visiting days because she will say for chapel and visits only, and then write cooperative. Let her have the word, I will have the truth. I am not ill, I am inconvenient. I am a person who did not accept the hand on the ledger, who said no at the wrong volume in a room that prefers whispers. The hospital is a cage with cushions. The cage is called care to persuade the cage to ask for more. I will prove this to you by nothing dramatic, only detail. Consider the chair by our ward door, an ordinary wooden thing placed precisely 3 inches from the frame every evening by the attendant. He says it is to keep the door from swelling in damp weather and because of other things. He looks at the hinge when he says this, not at us. The chair comforts me. Furniture that remembers its position implies a world held by agreement. The nurse could set it 2 inches or 4, and no shape of safety would alter. But the 3 is a ritual, and ritual is how institutions sound like prayer while they hold a key. Consider the corridor lamp. It throws its stripe across the ward at night. When the nurse passes, her shadow interrupts that stripe and darkness climbs a hand width and then retreats. I lie awake and wait for that interruption. It is not madness to keep time by shadows. It is what sailors do. After the shadow, sleep comes if the laughter woman does not laugh. On the nights she laughs, hers is an unashamed joy, the kind that would be punished in a day room. I press the heel of my hand to my chest and remind myself where I am. Naming each thing is a way to keep it from swallowing you. Bed, window, stripe, chair, breathe. I do not stay safe. I stay locked, which is the truth. Sometimes truth comes better than lies. The board came once, 4 people behind a table in a parlor that had decided to be cheerful, ferns that mind themselves, fringed lamps that turn any verdict into soft light. They asked the questions they know how to ask. How do you feel? Are you resting? Are you grateful? I answered as to customers. I am steady. Rest helps. I am grateful for fresh air and warm water. I did not say I'm grateful for small knives of dignity. They watched my hands. One wrote composed. It's a good word when applied to music. It's a poor word when applied to a person who is playing it for you. There is an end door to the corridor, 2 handles at different heights, which is ridiculous in a building that prides itself on order. A test, perhaps. An exit for staff, an exit for residents. I can reach both. The lower one turns half an inch and refuses. The upper is brass that cools the heat of a palm. I learned this 3 nights ago by walking the parlor rug when the nurse had turned her head to mend a cuff. I did not rattle. I did not plead. I touched. I learned. I returned to bed. Knowledge stored is not a failed attempt. It's a saved one. You will say, why not scream? Because the cage is listening for that. They have a room for screamers. They have a coat for pullers and scratchers, a syringe for the ones who argue with doors. What they do not have is a remedy for a woman who refuses to perform the part that they wrote for her. So I will not. I will remain a person with a pencil. I am writing this for someone later, perhaps a clerk with a better conscience than this place deserves, perhaps a daughter who's come across a box of papers and looks for herself in my sentences. You'll need evidence that I saw what was being done to me and that I did not fold inside their words and call it rest. The fear that visits me is not the fear they think. I'm not afraid of dark or of voices in other beds, of laughter or cries in the night. I'm afraid of the cage itself, of rope that calls itself a blanket. I'm afraid of months going into their file as if I had agreed. I'm afraid of the moment a key turns and some part of me forgets that it's not the sound of care, but of custody. So I will not forget. I will count the creak of the doctor's shoe, the inches of the chair from the door, the passes of the night nurse's shadow. The nights the laughter woman keeps her joy to herself and the ward sleeps like a held breath. I will remember how many times the word improving is said to me before breakfast, twice on Sundays when the new nurse practices it. I will say thank you to the nurse, not because I'm grateful, but because gratitude is a tool that opens small doors. I will walk to the edge and no further. I will think loudly and speak softly. I will be the person they cannot file. If you're reading this because someone finally asked for the truth, that is all it is. A woman who would not allow herself to be renamed. A building that calls its cage a cure. A door with 2 handles at different heights. A chair 3 inches from the frame because someone said so and kept saying so until the wood believed. It is evening. The corridor lamp has thrown its stripe. The radiator has begun its count. The moth has returned to the rim, faithful as hunger. The nurse will come with the cart of small cups and say the sentence she says, and I will nod the nod I nod. She will touch my shoulder the way a person checks a latch. Then I will lie down and do the work of refusing quietly until morning. They say I'm improving, or I just learned how to think without letting them hear it. The end. Thank you for listening to Now and Then Stories with Violet. If this story spoke to you, I hope you'll stay a while. There are always more moments waiting to be found between now and then.